Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be having a conversation that is a bit personal, and the conversation is around just having certain kinds of experiences in our formative years that translate into adulthood, what that journey is like, and what we're going to cover basically the experience, the repercussions, the redemptive journey, as well as the embodiment of new realities. I know that for many people, they went through experiences in their formative years that were painful, hurtful, things that they would rather forget, things that have marked them forever. For some people, they have gone through that journey of complete healing, where they are now in a good place, and that is now a message for them, for others. For some persons, they do not realize that they've not completely healed, but they actually have not completely healed. And now, the life that they are living, the actions that they are taking are stemming from that experience without their knowledge. And then from other people, or for the third set of people, it's just the experience of they know that this happened, they know that this is influencing their actions, but they really cannot help it. They really cannot help being in that situation. Because I have been in that place where I was marked by a childhood experience in my formative years, I believe that this video would help someone out there really begin to zoom into their own lives and see how they can begin to live free from that experience. Not just free from that experience in the sense of healing from it, but free from that experience in the sense of helping other people live free as well. Because do not ever forget that the experiences you have are not wasted experiences. They are experiences that God would use to help the lives of other people and help other people find healing easily. And this is one of the reasons why I'm even recording this video today, because I believe that is for someone. So going back to my own experience as a child, I was 8 years old when my parents got separated, and that experience in itself, I know many people, if you're thinking about it based off from a standpoint of an adult, you might say, oh, that's just normal, it happens, divorce happens a lot, and separation happens a lot, right? And that is true. But at the end of the day, the way a child will process something is different from the way an adult will process something, right? And so in that situation, and when that happened, I found out that I had a lot of questions that were not answered, questions that were left hanging, and issues that were sort of swept under the rug or swept under the carpet. For the longest time, I even felt like the adults around me were very careful to avoid the conversation completely. You know all those movies you watch and then you see parents sit their children down and say, oh, we're going to have a divorce. This doesn't change anything. We love you. We are here for you. We care for you and all that. Maybe there was a part of me as a child who needed that conversation. I just needed someone to help me make sense of what was going on and someone to help me answer those questions that were burning in my heart. But in that moment, I did not have that answer or those answers. And one thing about being a child in a confusing situation is that your feelings, the feelings that you have from that experience, would give meaning to what the experience was. So in my own situation, I started feeling things like rejection. I started feeling things like loneliness. I started feeling things like, oh, you're not loved enough. And those kind of feelings were beginning to take center stage in my life. I tried so much to suppress the feeling. Like, I know I'm stronger than this. Even as a child, I told myself, oh, I know I'm stronger than this. We can get through this. It's something that just happened. It's going to eventually pass. Let the years just pass. It will get easier. It will get better. But the truth is that when pain is suppressed, when hurt is suppressed, when it is not addressed, it shows up in your life later on, years later, you find out that this thing is affecting you without you even realizing it. So at every point in time, whenever it is that you encounter pain or hurt of any kind, go through that process. Allow yourself feel the emotions, the pain, the hurt, and get help. If you can, get help. I know in my situation, it was really difficult to talk to anyone because I did not think that anyone really understood. I remember a certain time, months after that occurrence happened or that situation happened, I overheard a conversation that was happening with a friend around my age at that time, speaking to one of my sisters. And the person was saying something like, oh, but this happened to them and they seemed fine. Everything was okay. I mean, the separation happened, but everybody went back to normal. Like the way children will have those kind of conversations. I think it stemmed from the fact that her own parents were sort of going through that phase in that season, and she was seeing me or I and my siblings as the example that children will be fine when those kind of things happen. It just goes to tell you that no one really understood the gravity of the situation, or no one really asked questions. And this video is not about anybody else, right? This video is about my own experience, trying to use that to teach somebody else. And so stepping out of that experience and going into the years that followed, I also realized, or I began to see some patterns. I began to see that feeling of rejection still lingered. That feeling of being unloved or feeling unloved still lingered. For so many years after that, it influenced my actions, it influenced my decisions, and even in my friendships, my relationships, those things will come up. It was almost like I was always trying to overcompensate because I did not think that me in myself, I was enough for anybody, or I was the kind of person that anybody wants to stay around for so long without an extra effort on my part. And these are things that can happen when hurt or pain is not addressed in those foundational years, right? And then moving on to the things that happened or the repercussions of that unaddressed feeling. I remember that I would have conversations with friends when I was older, in my teen years. I remember a particular friend I was talking to one time, and I was telling him how I did not ever want to get married. I just wanted to have a daughter and travel the world and make money and become this very rich woman that just enjoyed her life. I said that thing a couple of times till I started to believe that that was what my life was actually going to be about. And even when I will have experiences with God, because I think that God started to really draw me close to himself from an early age. But in those moments, I did not realize that that is what he was doing. Because mind you, whatever it is you experience in your earthly relationships will translate into your relationship with God. Whether you see it or like it, it will happen. So whenever it is you have unaddressed issues with in your earthly relationships, best believe that those issues will be translated into your relationship with God, except he helps you expose them, which he's always trying to do. But most times we are so stuck in our own little bubble of pain and hurt that we are not seeing what he's trying to do. So I saw how God was trying to draw me to himself. Now, in retrospect, I can see, but in those moments, I couldn't see it. But then getting on that journey with God, I remember I got into the university at 18, and around maybe 18 plus 19, I met a group of people that started to tell me about what my life would be. They helped me begin to see God in a whole different light. They helped me begin to see myself through God's eyes. They helped me begin to see who I really was in Christ. And they helped shift my focus to really see myself the way God sees me, or see myself the way God saw me, or see myself the way God sees me. Yeah. And in that season, I started to notice a change. Of course, not a drastic change. I just started to notice that there were things that I had not paid attention to. And so that was the time I started to have experiences. I remember I received the gift of the Holy Spirit. And in that season as well, I started to hear God tell me things about my life, about the things he will use me for. And for every time he said things like that, and for every time I heard people give me words of prophecy about things like that, the feeling that will come back is, I'm not enough for that call. I'm not the one that will carry out that kind of vision for God, because I am not enough. And so even in the eyes of God, or even before God, I still saw myself as not enough. And so it was difficult for me to even believe those words of prophecies when they came. Even when I heard God speak to me clearly, it was difficult for me to believe it. So at a point, I'm sure even God started to see that it was not a matter of just telling me about the things I would do for him. It was about showing me that I could be that person as well. And that is when the excavation really began. The process of excavating all the issues that had transpired when I was a child or as a child. And God really beginning to show me clearly what those situations did to my mind, what those experiences did to my heart, and how much I had become or embodied the hurt I felt, the pain I felt, the rejection I felt, and how that had gone on to control my life in a way that I did not imagine. And so it was only in that season, only after that season, I started to pray the prayer, Lord, help me to see myself the way you see me. Because if there's one thing I've noticed as well that pain does, or hurt does, or unaddressed childhood trauma does, is that because you were so young when it happened, you had not successfully formed an identity for yourself based off of the things that were important or the things that mattered. That experience gave you an identity. So growing up, you only see yourself based on that occurrence or that thing that happened to you. You will not see yourself differently. So one of the things that you need to do is to begin to ask God, God, help me to see myself the way you see me, beyond the hurt that I felt, beyond the pain that I felt. And also help me to see the purpose in that pain, or the purpose in that hurt, or the purpose in that experience. Because like I said earlier, God never wastes experiences. He never ever wastes experiences. Every experience that you have is for a reason. Every experience that you have is for a purpose. Perhaps through your life, God will give other people the healing that they need. Perhaps through your life, God will help other people even completely avoid that pain in the first place, because they now know better. And so stepping away from the experiences and the repercussions, let's move a bit into that redemptive journey. The foundation of that redemptive journey is coming to that place of understanding that the person that created you is the one who sees you correctly, is the only one who truly sees you correctly. So what he's going to begin to do is that, just like scales fell off the eyes of Saul, he's going to begin to remove those scales from your eyes, those scales of rejection, those scales of feeling unworthy, those scales of feeling like you were not enough. He's going to begin to remove those things that have blurred your vision, and he's going to begin to help you truly see yourself the way he sees you. But you have to make that decision that you want to go on this journey with him, because he's the only one that can truly help you. You have to make that decision that you're going to be willing to place your hand in his and have him lead you the way you should be led. That decision is yours to make. And I can tell you everything else that you need to know. But if I do not tell you this, it will be all a waste. Because at the end of the day, whatever you would end up becoming, whatever your life will end up becoming, is only hinged on the person who created you and the person who brought you here in the first place. So when you decide that your experiences have to be different, your mindset has to be different, you need to understand that the only person that can take you through that is the person who brought you here. And so this is just a call for you to take your gaze back to that person. Take your eyes back to him and have your eyes fixed on him. Because in doing that, in just dwelling, in just sitting at his feet, you find out that you are so different from what you have always thought and what you have always believed. You begin to think new thoughts. New realities will begin to settle into your spirit as touching who you were always meant to be before that pain happened. And then moving on to the conversation of the embodiment of new realities. Now that you've stepped into the knowledge of what that redemptive journey should be, and you've stepped into the understanding that only He can help you, you also need to understand that you are in a fight. Because one thing I've always also seen people do, they come out of these experiences, they tell themselves, okay, I know I've stayed with God enough and I'm healed completely. But one of the things that I've noticed is that the devil will always come back to use those things to fight you. And if you do not stay ready, you find yourself falling back into old patterns. So it's not just enough to start the redemptive journey. It's not enough to start to see yourself differently. What you need to do is to start to create weapons of warfare that you use to fight when he comes back with those lies and when he comes back with those ideas that are wrong. And what are those weapons? You need to strengthen your mind. The Bible says we need to renew our minds. Our minds need to be renewed. And not just renewed in the sense that I'm speaking to myself and I'm trying to adopt new thoughts. Renewal in the sense of I'm keeping myself in the face of my Maker, my Creator, the one who sees me correctly. And I am allowing Him speak things over me. Till those things He speaks over me through His words, through prophecies, through times of fellowship, begin to become my own thoughts and my own realities. So that when those situations arise where it looks like I'm beginning to fall back into old patterns, there is always a reminder in the wealth of my spirit, in the abundance of my heart, that I am now different. I am no longer that person I used to be. I am no longer blurred by the pain that I felt. My vision is no longer impaired by the hurt that I experienced. I am now a new person. So it's not just going to be enough for it to be words of your mouth. It is more important that it is the thoughts in your mind. Yesterday I was having a conversation with my husband, and there was something that I was trying to work on. And for some reason I started to feel that I was not enough for that opportunity. I was not strong enough to do it. I was not consistent enough to carry it out. And that conversation, God used that conversation with him to remind me that this is still a fight that you are on. As much as you have gone through that redemption or that redemptive process, the fight will always come again. And it brings me to the next point. There always has to be somebody around you that reminds you of the picture of who you truly are. So that when you begin to forget, and when it looks like you have begun to fall for those lies again, those people are able to show you and remind you that you are so much more, that you are enough, that the pain does not define you, that you have come out of that place as a victor that is going to help other people experience victories. I believe that this message is for someone, and in this moment, God is laying in your heart those areas that you need to begin to focus on. And God is helping you begin to see yourself the way He sees you. See yourself correctly. But the only way you can do that is to see yourself through His eyes. I hope that this video was valuable for you. I hope that you receive the healing that you require to go through life and be triumphant again. I hope that your vision is clear and you're able to truly see yourself the way He sees you. I look forward to reading from you in the comments, and I look forward to hearing your testimonies as well. Have a beautiful day. Bye.